And we're back with another episode of the Motor City Riffs podcast. I'm your host, Chuck Bean. Every Sunday night at 9 p.m., I host Motor City Riffs, our local music show on 101 WRIF. And thankfully, I have this really fancy studio where they let me record a podcast, also called Motor City Riffs, where I invite bands in, and we get to spend an hour with them just kind of talking about what they're like, and you get to get a feel for the people in the band, as well as hear a few of their songs. Tonight, I am joined by Ally and Tristan of Forge the Sun. Guys, how are you this evening?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm excited to have you guys in here.
Thanks for having us.
Because you guys have been sending me stuff pretty much since we started Motor City Riffs about 2 years ago. One of the coolest things you guys sent me is the cover of Witchcraft.
Oh yeah.
That you guys did.
Thank
the what is it? It's not Fred Astaire. I can't think of his name.
It's made famous by Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra. Yeah, thank you very
jazz
much.
Standard.
Yes. In fact, to the point that I've heard I'd never heard Frank Sinatra's version before I'd heard your version. And I listened to it a bunch of times, and I'm like, this is really good. And then I listened to Frank Sinatra's version, and I was like, what is that? I don't like this at all.
It's different for sure.
Where like your guys' version of Witchcraft, like, they need to put that at the end of like a Netflix movie or something. They need to put that in the credits of something spooky, like Stranger Things or something, because it's real good. But we're not here to talk about just your song Witchcraft. We're here to talk about everything that is about Forge the Sun. So let's start off with my first question for you guys. What genre would you say you guys' music is?
I describe it as progressive Detroit rock and roll.
Okay.
So, kind of, anyone that's seen us live, it's like, I think the influences of like the late 60s, early 70s, Detroit rock bands are definitely there.
Okay.
But then you've got more progressive elements.
Like, are you thinking when you say that, like Alice Cooper, the MC5, that kind of thing?
Yeah. The Frost, the Rockets, Mitch Ryder, Detroit Wheels.
Okay.
Cactus.
I am unaware of Cactus.
Oh, the Cactus is awesome.
I will have to look that up. They got a cool name already.
Yeah, Jim McCarty's the guitar player.
How many bands from like the southern states you think were super pissed that somebody in Michigan took the name Cactus?
Oh, probably every single one. Yeah, the Cactus, too. It's like half. So you got like Jim McCarty, and then you've got guys I think from Vanilla Fudge too in that band. So
oh,
it's
excellent.
Like a New York, Detroit love
like
child.
super band.
Yeah, totally. So
nice.
So I think you can hear those influences for sure. But then there's also like the progressive element. Like we all like Tool in the band, and like I'm a huge fan of
it shows.
The prog rock bands.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely hear it.
Totally.
For sure.
So that's how I would describe it. Ally, I don't know if that's.
I would agree with that. It's definitely got like that Detroit rock and roll, progressive rock feel. And I think there's a lot of nostalgic elements to the songs that we do. But I think what's great about our group is that we all have very eclectic music tastes. And I think you can see it all kind of blend within our music. So you're going to hear elements of jazz, elements of blues, modern elements. Throughout the music and throughout everything that we do. So I think it has a sense of familiarity, but it's also really unique, which is why I think a lot of people really dig what we're doing right now.
Hell yeah. So the name Forge the Sun, give me the origins. How did it start? What does it mean?
So it's kind of a funny story because we were actually in the process of releasing Nature in 2021. This was like probably around when wave 2 of COVID was happening. So we were all trying to do this like in the sanctity of our own homes and kind of coordinating and getting it posted like over Zoom. And we were super excited. We finally got everything figured out and we were just about to post it. But there was another band, I think from like the state of Massachusetts, that had posted their first like debut EP under the name that we were originally going by, which was The Nine.
Okay.
So 9 from Massachusetts posts their EP, and we're like, we did not just spend like all this time, energy, and effort on this 8-minute song, getting everything together to be the secondary 9, now newly in
the 9 Detroit. That's what they do.
Right.
Yeah. So just for purposes of the song being so unique, we wanted to maintain like the the name of the band to be as unique. So I think we spent like a week or something just like brainstorming.
Yeah, I mean, coming up with a new name, I think it was longer than a week, but like, yeah, like you came up with the name. I was like, dude, that's the one. Yeah, it felt like it was longer than a week. Maybe it was a week, but it was just like, oh man, because it was stressful too. It was like you put all this blood, sweat, and tears into this piece,
right?
And you want to release it, and you're really proud of it, and then it just gets, there's all. I don't know. In music,
the rug gets pulled out from under you.
Exactly.
And now you have to
it's like, oh man, we got to delay this.
You have to pivot and figure out what do you get. So
totally.
Do you guys remember some of the names that didn't make it?
Oh, something about eyes. Well, there was a couple. Oh man, there was
something about eyes is kind of a cool name in and of itself.
Yeah, that'd be a good one too. Yeah, something about
like I'd be really interested. What's that band like?
They were. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember anything specifically, but I do remember like the conversation of like, okay, what do we want to do with this name? And I think like a couple of the themes where we either wanted it to be based off of Michigan or based off of like the vibe of our music or the songs that we've created like thus far, like to have some sort of element within what we're doing. And I just remember like researching every little thing about Michigan that I possibly could, like the state bird, the state mineral, and just trying to like
dude, I looked up like the ancient beaver that used to walk around. I forgot the name of it, dude, but I was like, that could be kind of badass. But then I was like, I forgot the name of it. But I remember that. Yeah.
So you landed on Forge the Sun. What about that was like, this is it?
Ally came up with that. I just thought that was like I don't know. I just thought there's so many different ways you can look at that, but like, to create the sun is like a star is one of the most powerful things in like the universe.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not into astronomy and stuff, but like it's pretty damn powerful.
We'll be checking your credentials at the end of this podcast.
Fact check me on that. Yeah, totally. But I love the way it sounded, like Forge the Sun. Like that's how I feel about. Like I'm 100% in every time I make a song or make a piece of music or anytime I do something, and I just thought like that is kind of like. It's like a representation of how I approach music and how I approach a lot of things in my life. You're trying to create this thing that's really powerful. You put all yourself into it.
Sure.
And then, you're proud of it. So that's how I related to that title. And I was like, that's badass, Ally. I like that. So, and I felt like that represented our music that we were doing. I've been in groups where it's kind of it's just for fun, or it's kind of like.
I've also been in groups where people get hyper focused on what's the name of the band.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah,
guys, we don't even have songs yet.
Yeah,
calm down.
Right, yeah, exactly. You got to forge a sun.
Maybe
first. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Maybe figure out what our sound is, and then we'll worry about what we're called.
Totally. Yeah.
Kind of thing.
That's I don't know, Ally. How'd you come across it? Like, how'd you?
Well, first and foremost, it wasn't taken. So
excellent.
Okay,
yeah. I think I've said it on this podcast before. It is excellent that we live in a time where when you come up with a band name, the first thing you can do is Google it and see if anybody else has got it yet.
Totally.
Yeah. So first and foremost, it wasn't taken, so that was good. And then I think that name itself kind of stemmed from everything that we were doing as a band in terms of like musically and performance wise. Like I wanted something that kind of could be metaphorical for what we do on stage, which is really powerful, high energy rock and roll.
Right.
And then also our creative process as well. Like if you look at our songs, and a lot of the songs that are going to be coming up on the new upcoming album, is a lot of them are really, really thought out, and the album itself is really thought out. There's a lot of really awesome.
Does that mean there are songs that are currently out that weren't really thought out?
No, everything we do is really thought out.
That's a good question.
Like it sounds like it, but the way you said that is like, wait a second. There like one or two of those songs I heard that they were just like, blah, hey, there's a song, cool.
And there are bands that just like, these are filler songs. Like there's not a single song I've ever approached or that we've ever approached where it's been like, this is a filler song. Everything's like.
Have you talked to bands that like certain songs? They're like, it's filler.
Oh, I've heard interviews with bands.
Really?
We were just talking about Josh Homme before we went on, and Josh Homme is like, he had a great quote. He was on Joe Rogan.
Fascinating.
And someone approached Josh and was like, hey, like, you ever just, we could.
This album needs about 4 minutes and 37 more seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
I gotcha.
Josh was like, well, why do they have to be filler songs? Why can't they just be great songs. Like, why can't every song be great?
Yeah. Well, that's why I would imagine too, being the musician that creates the song, like they're your baby.
Oh, you
like
gotta play
every
that
song
thing.
is kind of your baby. Even if like you write a song, I've heard musicians before that like write out an album and then there's like 2 or 3 songs. It's like, yeah, we can't play that live.
Yeah.
That's impossible. We can't figure that out.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Totally. You know, it is perfectly put. Like, it is your baby, and you're gonna be playing it a lot. So wouldn't you want it to be a song that you love, right? Like,
exactly.
So it's like whenever you learn a new song, like, you need to get ready to play it 100 times because you're gonna have to practice it, and
right.
if you want to do it any justice. So, yeah, no, I think that's.
So how did Forge the Sun start out? I mean, you said you guys were previously called the Nine, but like, what's the origin story of this band coming together?
So I teach at a music store, and one of my coworkers.
I'm gonna have to get your card later.
Yeah, for sure.
I taught myself to play guitar, and as Mitch Hedberg said, that was a bad idea because I wasn't a good guitarist yet.
I'm sorry. Totally. Let's do some. Yeah,
please continue.
We'll be in contact.
All right, excellent.
But yeah, one of my coworkers just said, "Hey, I have this student. She's got this, great voice, and I'm asking around for her to see if there's any musicians that want to, gig, maybe do some duo stuff or whatever."
Sure.
And at the time, I'd been doing like either classical or jazz for the last like 4 years nonstop at Wayne State, and I was like, I kind of want to just go back to like. I want to get some experience playing songs with like 3 chords. I want to do some more like singer-songwriter stuff.
Like classically trained on the guitar.
Like classical training. Yeah. I've played classical pieces, but like I've studied the music, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself a classical guitar player.
But like you've taken music theory classes.
Absolutely.
And like you understand
in the sense
the notes and where they're framed and how they
100%. I love that stuff.
Because I had to learn once again on my own that like don't play this note and this note next to it, the notes next to it, don't play them the 2 notes next to each other because that's bad.
Oh yeah,
that sounds
totally.
awful.
And the right note's always 1 note away, right? So it's like
right.
You got that. No, yeah, totally. So yeah, I've got my Bachelor of Arts from Wayne State, and I was playing, but really it's like jazz, classical, and there's no really in between a lot of the time. At least
I'm
in
feeling
terms
insecure. He's got a big old brain over there. He knows his stuff.
In terms of like classes, it's really focused on one or the other. You do get some really hip professors who are like, yeah, I listen to King Crimson.
Right.
Like, all right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's grab coffee or something.
I can show you how to play 21st century, man. Let's do this.
It's unfortunate too because that music is so influenced by those genres.
Yes.
It's like, why can't we have a class where we talk about Frank Zappa? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's really more complex than some of the John Cage stuff, but he's considered a rock musician or whatever.
Right.
So I wanted to do some of that stuff. So instantly my ears were like, oh, I'd be interested.
Uh-huh.
So I got Allie's contact from her teacher, and
now how does the other side of this story work? Like before he gets the contact information, are you essentially just taking class and you're like, hey, do you know any musicians?
I actually didn't ask. So when I had went to go get lessons, it was under the impression of, like I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to hone a skill because, like, I guess throughout my life, I just kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything. And I started doing an electronic music class in college, and everybody in my class, including my professor, was like, why aren't you doing something with this? And I was just like, I don't know. I guess maybe I could do something with this.
Right.
And I've been singing my entire life. My entire family sings, more like the choir, like theater type of scenario.
Now, were you trained to sing, or was it just kind of thing that just came to you?
It's
came
something
naturally?
that I picked up through just being around my aunts, like harmonizing at Christmas, like singing Christmas songs and stuff like that. But I was just like, like maybe I could hone the skill and actually learn how to do this correctly, and then maybe I could do something with it. So I went to lessons, and my teacher was like, why aren't you doing anything now? Like, you need to do something with this, like, right now.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I'm going to go ask people.
I'm not even going to ask your permission. I'm just going to float your name out there to some musicians I know who are really good.
Literally how it went. She was just like, don't you worry. I'll get you set up with something. I was like, okay. So, yeah, I just kind of, like, dived into it. I wasn't really sure, like, how to do it, what to expect, where to even start. So it ended up being, like, a kind of a cool situation because then we ended up meeting and we started doing like cover shows together as a duo. And as soon as that kind of picked up a little bit, we were like, okay, we kind of want to do something a little bit more with this. Then we started forming a full band and worked as I would say primarily a cover band for a hot minute until we started writing original music.
So take one step back. What was that first meeting like? What was that first jam session? What did you each think of each other after that first practice? Were you like, yes, this is something, like right from the word go?
I think there were. Yeah, I think we knew there was something there. Because I think the first tune we played was either "Zombie" by the Cranberry, like just like very singer-songwriter stuff, and it was stripped too. That was the big thing. It was like, all right, I want to see like at the very bare bones form, like a good song would sound great, just
absolutely
a cappella and like just guitar. You know what I mean? Like just stripped down. Yeah, it was either like "Zombie" or like "People Are Strange." I think it was one of the two. Do you think it was something else, or?
I think it was definitely "Zombie," and then we did. I think the 4 earliest songs that I remember was "Zombie" by the Cranberries, "Cold Shot,"
the Adele song too,
the Foo Fighter song,
Everlong. Yeah.
Everlong.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like, oh wow, that was dope, cool, and it's. I don't know. I was just like, oh, let's do it again. So we played, and then
it just built off of that.
Yeah, we just built off that, and
when you guys like picked those 4 songs, like who picked what, as far as like we should try this. Well, we should try this. Like were those songs that like you liked to sing already, and you're like, hey, I know these. Can you learn to play them? Or were there songs for you that was like, oh, I know how to play this, and I wonder if she can hit that.
I feel like I went off more of what you said.
It's
I think
possible.
you got to fit more to
remember.
what because every vocalist has like different ranges and different textures.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
100%.
Like, if I want to go up a different key, I can just.
Right? Yep, exactly.
So I mean, there's things that you got to be a little bit more specific about with vocals and stuff, and like just how does it sound, right?
Right.
I don't know. I'm gonna assume it was a combination of both.
I think
I had to like the song.
And what what time frame are we talking about? Like what year would this have been in?
2018.
2018. Okay,
2018,
so it's been
5 years.
5-6 years.
Yeah.
Nice.
We're getting old.
All right, well, let's go into the first song. I think we're gonna start with "Nature."
Okay, awesome.
Does that sound cool?
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Yeah.
Anything you want to tell the listeners who may have never heard this song before about it before they give it a listen?
I would say it's not it's not fast food for your brain. You're supposed to immerse yourself when you listen to it.
Okay.
Right? It's I wouldn't call it like I don't know. It demands your attention. It's 8 minutes long.
Right.
But
right.
I think you'll be surprised by how fast the 8 minutes go by because it's paced well, and I don't know. You're just gonna have to see for yourself. I don't want to give away too much.
What about you, Ally?
Yeah.
I would say this is probably like one of our babies when it comes to like that very Toolish like prog rock type of sound. It's a little bit darker than I would say a lot of the stuff on the album is slightly dark, but I would say the tone of a lot of the music that we do is pretty bright. This is a fairly dark song, and I would say like lyrically it's just a giant metaphor for taking care of the environment and recognizing making better choices in terms of like taking care of the earth.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
The
So
dark.
we'll be back in about 8 minutes. It's worth it
Buckle
though.
up, yeah.
It's worth it. I've pre-listened to these tunes and they are great.
Sweet.
So check out "Nature" from Forge the Sun,
All right.
and we'll be back with more of the Motor City Riffs podcast. That was "Nature" from Forge the Sun here on the Motor City Riffs podcast. I'm your host, Chuck Bean. I've been joined by Ally and Tristan from the band Forge the Sun tonight. As we mentioned before, we played the song. You guys definitely cite Tool as an influence, and out of all the songs that you guys currently have available, that's the one where I was like, oh yeah, these kids like Tool. These kids absolutely like Tool.
Yeah, that's
But I do have some questions about the song that are. So first of all, as we mentioned right off the top, that song is very long.
Yeah.
Very long song. How did you write a song that big? Like, did you write it in movements and then kind of piece it all together? Or like, was it literally like, okay, I got this idea, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take a minute to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, I mean, well, first, I think like when I write a song, I always start from like what is the purpose of the song?
Okay.
Right. I used to not do that, and I ended up writing this big kind of like meandering pile of just like sound, like I don't know, it just would have no direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, what is the purpose? And I wanted to write a song, that was inspired by what I was listening to a lot at the time, which was 10,000 Days. Like I was listening to that album nonstop. It was like my album for like 6 months. I was just nonstop. So yeah, I was like, okay, I want to write something that's inspired by this. This is what I'm really into right now. And I want to have, I want to have other elements in there too, though, because like, if you listen to like the bridge section, so I want like in the bridge sections,
right? Because like it starts heavy, but then it lightens up near the middle of it. But you guys come back around near the end of it.
That's where I wanted to kind of like incorporate other elements too, because I don't want to be like Tool 2.0. That'll always be worse than Tool 1.0,
Sure.
right? So, like you'll hear some inverted like seventh chords in there, which was like from my. I mean, I wouldn't call it like, it's not. People use the term like jazzy. I mean, I guess those are voices
it definitely has
jazz music. You know,
that's the thing about, I think, all of your music has like, yes, you've definitely got this prog rock kind of vibe going on with a lot of it, but there is kind of a bluesy, jazzy, especially to your guitar playing, a bluesy, jazzy kind of feel to a lot of how that stuff works. What came first, the lyrics or the music?
Music.
I think the music, we laid the groundwork down for it. And that's usually how it goes. Like I'll write the music, and Ally will write the lyrics and vocal melody, or she'll like double what I'm playing. It's Black Sabbath stuff, right?
Yeah,
like Ozzy
right.
Like, yeah, I'd write a vocal melody, or just
sure. I'll just follow what the bass player's doing.
So
whatever.
So I wanted to like be more inspired by Tool than like totally rip them off or anything. And I looked at the tune as an opportunity to do that, to have a bunch of other influences in there as well, like the bridge section that kind of lightens up. It's like, I would call it like the middle section. Heavily inspired by like Chan.
It reminds me of, so when I was growing up and like the first time you hear Metallica and all your friends are super getting into Metallica, I remember one of the ways that I could tell that while some of my friends were totally 100% into like And Justice for All, I was like, why did they write 5 songs and then smash them all together and call it one?
Yeah, right.
There's like 5 good songs in here. Why are they all smashed together into this like 8-minute epic kind of thing? Now that's, teenage me talking kind of thing, not understanding that like, sometimes people write music like that. Eventually you're going to listen to, you mentioned like Frank Zappa or something, or King Crimson, and you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a whole genre of like, you don't just write a verse and a chorus and a bridge and maybe a solo and be done. Sometimes you need like, I don't know, 14 or 15 movements to a song.
Totally. And sometimes it's just like, I felt like this one, it just flowed really, like it just, I don't know, it just was like really natural. Like it just, like, where can I go from here? Oh, I can go there, and then it comes back around.
When he presents it to you, is it already kind of in the form musically that you hear when you listen to it now?
Most of it, yeah. Or sometimes like
so he plays for like 6 or 7 minutes, you're like, is this still the same thing?
He'll usually send me like recordings off the phone, like that's how we worked a lot, where he would have the recording of like the guitar off the phone, and then I would take that and try and build something with it. And
like you guys were talking about in the first segment, like this was the song that you were looking to present, and then COVID happens. So like we'll get into like the recording process in a couple minutes here, but like you have to, because of isolation during those first couple of months, you have to work that way. You have to be like, hey, I can't just come over with my guitar. So like, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm playing. Get a Zoom call going, or get, like you said, like over the phones. Like, here's a wave file. Like, give it a listen.
Absolutely.
Let me know what you think.
Yeah, and generally I'll have like basically the guitar line, and based off of how that music is making me feel will influence the story that I write.
Yeah.
And for the way that the song progresses, it is such a musical story that it really needed something on top of it that was just as powerful.
Sure.
So with the environment of the way everything was going, like I wanted to talk about something environmentally, but I wanted it to stick a little bit harder because the tone of the song was so dark that I kind of used this mother as like a metaphor for Mother Nature, for nature of the earth. Because, I mean, every single day we look at people who just like toss cigarette butts on the ground. Well, you wouldn't toss a cigarette butt on your mom.
Or worse.
Right? Or worse, right. Or doing worse things. So creating this like human image of what we're physically doing to the earth, I think hits a lot harder than just looking at it as like just grass or just like water or whatever it could be. Like, this is a physical being that you're affecting. So in the first segment, I mentioned that like one of the first songs I heard from you guys was that awesome cover of Witchcraft. You also have a song called Burn the Witch, and then there's this song, Nature. They all have kind of like Wicca themes to them. Is that intentional? No.
Not
is that
at
something
all.
you are absolutely, so you're
I'm
not like
a Wiccan, I don't.
Yeah, like not, there's no Stevie Nicks in the band or anything. It's
no. I would probably say like I am very like connected to the earth in a spiritual sense, and that could possibly influence a lot of things, but I mean, realistically, nature is about stop messing up the environment. Like, stop being an asshole to the earth. And then
why'd you just call it that? That gets right to the point.
And then Witchcraft is obviously Frank Sinatra's influence. So,
for sure.
About a tempting experience. And then Burn the Witch is a completely different thing. And that actually is technically has nothing to do with witches.
Okay.
But the whole song conspired lyrically off of this one time where I was dating this guy. He was very toxic. I had to let him go because he was just bringing me down with him. And he was just so confused at how nice and kind I was to him after he had been like an asshole to me.
Sure.
And was just like, how could you be so nice to me when I've been treating you so terribly? And I was just like, I don't know, because I feel bad for you because you're going through a lot. And he's just like, you're just a freaking witch. Like, like he literally called me a witch. And I was just like, okay, well, you're using that as a derogatory way. I'm just going to turn it into something that's positive.
Right. So going back to the song Nature, because I had a few more questions about that. And this is where we kind of get into the recording of it. So when you guys recorded this song, did you have to piece it apart and record like this part and then record this part and then put it together? Yeah. Are the drums, the bass, the guitar, is any of that like one take?
The drums are.
The drums are one take.
And
okay.
The guitars are in big sections, but the drum. We had our first drummer, Matt Fickney, who's awesome drummer. He's no longer, well, he's with us, but he's not dead. No, he's like, he's, he's not in the band. He's
the man
no
is
longer
still
in the band.
behind the drum kit somewhere.
He's doing his own thing, exactly.
He's just not playing for Force the Sun right now.
I remember he was like, he kept doing this thing where he'd like play a really good take or a great take, and then he'd run back into the studio and check with the producer. Like, how was that? And the producer would be like, oh yeah, it was good. Then he'd run back and then do another take, and he kept just, he's interesting dude. But yeah, he
he wasn't satisfied with the take, so he would do another one.
Yeah, exactly. So he was he did it in one take. And there might have been maybe like one spot where he kind of like went back in, because like there's different mood changes. I think the tempo is the same the whole time. There's like time changes, and there's parts in the tune that lend themselves to be like, okay, cool, we're gonna start here, right? Let's pick it back up. So it's kind of nice. But I remember he was just in that room for like 8-9 minutes. He'd be in there 8-9 minutes and come back out and go do it again. So
is that like so in my experience, and when it comes to recording music, you usually start with a drum track. Like you record scratch tracks of maybe the vocals and a guitar, or maybe even the whole band, but you keep the drum part kind of thing. So he's forcing you guys to play it like over and over again because he's not satisfied with the take.
Well, I mean, that's one of the getting the whole with the modern approach to recording, right? Yeah, you gotta play till I get the exact perfect take, and that was blood, sweat, and tears for sure. And
Sure.
a lot, internal tears for sure. It was just like, oh man, this is like really exhausting. I remember like
Right.
I told Ally or Barrett, someone, I was like, I feel ill. Like,
Well,
this
yeah,
is
and I don't know.
playing so long.
I don't know about you. Maybe this is why you're still in a band and I am not. But when it comes to recording the scratch track, like after the second or third take, I know we're not keeping this part, so I don't care if I screw up.
Oh yeah.
Like if I hit a wrong note, as long as the drummer keeps going because he
Mm-hmm.
knows where he's supposed to be, who cares? We're recording over this in 4 hours.
Yeah. I think it was just because there's like very subtle but notice, like I don't know, they're crucial time changes.
Yeah.
I think it was just making sure that was really tight, making sure it was locked in.
Right.
And it's like, oh wow, okay, wow, I got that done. It's like, yeah, that was the 8-minute song.
Yep.
Just the scratch tracks. You'll be back. Yeah, and then
I'll come back tomorrow and punch in the different parts
Oh
so
my
I can
God.
get this over with.
It was fun too because you get to. I don't use any pedals, so like
Really?
I don't use any pedals. No, I'm not.
Fascinating.
I'm not a fan. But with that one,
Do you even like go from a clean tone to a distorted tone, or you just use the same tone all the time?
So what I do is I have a line 6, and
Okay.
I have I like a little dirtier than an AC/DC tone. That's like my ideal tone. I don't like oversaturated distortion.
Do you use a different tone for the solos?
So what I do is this. So I have my neck pickup, and I have my neck pickup, and then I have my volume for the neck pickup at like 2. And so I use that for my cleans.
And then the bridge is at 10.
And then I go to bridge, and I love the trebly, ear-piercing bridge tone. And I also control how hard I hit the strings. I use my thumb sometimes. I'm all about the volume knobs. Like that's
Interesting.
So it's all I don't know. There's just so much there. I don't.
That's witchcraft.
I take
playing with the friggin' volume knobs.
Oh yeah,
like
totally.
That's, doing that while you're playing, and trying to keep up with where the. That's the other thing I wanted to ask you guys about when it comes to this song. So when you play this song live, is this the set ender?
Witchcraft or
No, nature.
Oh no, that's sometimes it's not.
Or is this
sometimes it's not even in the set. You have to find it. So
you guys are like, no, we ain't doing that.
yeah, I mean, I've heard stories of Mastodon being like, you know what, we're not playing the Czar. It was we played that last night. We need a breather. We're playing, the Hunter or whatever. No, sometimes it is
when
like,
it does make its way into the set. Where does it usually position?
In the
Like you
middle.
don't start with that.
No.
no, we don't start with it.
That's a hard swallow for someone that's never seen you before.
It's jarring. Yeah, it's for sure.
But if you after like 3 or 4 songs, once you got them hooked, and it's
Yep.
like, hey, by the way, check this out.
exactly. Yep.
Yep.
We put it in the middle usually.
Yeah.
Or second to last or something
Yeah.
like that. So.
And that was the other question I had when you guys played that live. Has anyone ever gotten lost in the middle of a song? And been
I've
like,
gotten lost multiple times.
Have you?
Not recently, but I'll tell you, I'll be the first to tell you, I've made tons of mistakes on that tune. It's
Yeah.
a tricky one. When we were first learning it, I
Right.
remember it was like, all right, well, it's never going to be a good time to play this. Let's just go do
'Cause-
it. And I've got our first performance of that. I have a recording of it somewhere, and it was awesome. But I remember being like in rehearsal, just goofing super hard,
Right.
and even that performance wasn't perfect. I thought it was. I was happy.
It
with
was
how
acceptable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I thought it was really good. I mean,
Right.
but yeah, I've made plenty of mistakes on that tune, and I think when you play with new drummers too, because we don't have a permanent drummer, we're in drummer limbo.
okay,
That's happened. That's gotten them. There's some weird.
I'm sure.
weird stuff in that song. You got to know the time changes from like 4/4 to 7/4, 6/4, and the top number is not changing, but
right.
the bottom one is, and you got to really. Or
It's the
the
reverse. The bottom
sorry.
number's
Dude,
same,
Yeah, sorry.
but the top
The
number's
bottom-
changing.
Yeah, you're right. So the bottom number is staying the same. Sorry.
Right.
I studied music, right? But yeah, it's just like I don't know. That stuff can sneak up on you, especially if.
Yeah, well, especially when
filling
you're
in.
playing a song that long, and because songs in their nature, songs like sections of songs are repetition. You get a guitar
Yeah.
riff or something, and you repeat it, and you're like, okay, we're gonna repeat this 4 times, and
Yep.
we're gonna repeat this 6 times, we're gonna repeat this 5 times,
Sure.
and it's very easy when you've been playing a song for like 5 or 6 minutes to hit a part and be like, how many times did I just do?
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh, and like you start looking to like the bass player or the singer. You try and figure out like make sure you know all the words because if I know what she's singing, then I know where I am.
Sometimes
Oh,
I don't
kinda
even
thing.
know what I'm singing though.
Oh no.
Yeah, we just count like it's counting. Like we'll have a
Yeah.
lot of rehearsals. I've had rehearsals just with the drummer that's filling in,
Yeah.
or we've had just instrumental rehearsals. Ally's not there. You got to be able to do that because
Yeah.
you don't want to be in a position where it's like, oh, well, because I couldn't hear Ally, the whole thing fell apart. Like you got to be
Right.
counting. You got to make.
But on the flip side of that too is that if you hear, especially if you hear the singers in the wrong spot, you have to be able to adjust.
Oh yeah, melody always comes first. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
Because
there's-
like I've also been guilty of like, no, you're in the wrong spot. You're the
Yeah.
one that's gonna look like shit.
yeah, right.
I'm staying where I am.
And it just end up all looking like
And
shit.
that
Yep.
doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
That it just makes the whole band look bad.
Exactly.
I'm
totally.
typically pretty good with hitting the melody, but I've definitely watermeloned on that
Yeah.
song before in the past, just getting tripped up on where I'm actually at in the lyrics.
I haven't
but-
thought of watermelon in so long. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's amazing to meet another musician, and that's a thing.
Totally.
That's amazing. So, how did you guys what studio did you guys go to record? Like, not even specifically that, but like your stuff. Have you guys just been in the same studio to record most of your stuff?
The EP we recorded with with my friend and classmate and peer. His name's Tommy Porter.
Okay.
He studied at Wayne State. He's audio engineer. Awesome dude. He plays with his band Venom Morris. He's active in the
but
scene.
It sounds cool.
Yeah, they're cool. They're like alternative, like emo punk. He does a lot of.
I love all three of those
yeah,
things.
oh yeah, check them out. They're great. Tommy's like super smart too. He's like he graduated. I think like you hear stories like, yeah, I go to music school and 7 years later you graduate, and it's like I think he graduated like 3.5 years. I was like, oh, smart dude, really nice, great at audio engineering, and he was giving us a great deal too to record
Excellent.
at his little home studio. So that was where the EP was recorded.
Okay.
And he was awesome to work with. He was super patient, way more patient than I think anybody else would have been.
Yeah.
'Cause, you're in that situation for the first time with that group, and there's mistakes made, and sometimes you're just not having a good day. You're like, oh, just come back tomorrow.
Well, and it can be intimidating too, being in the studio for the first time.
Oh,
if you haven't done the process of recording music in a studio before, it can be like, what do I do?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
next?
Exactly, totally. So we were in we recorded the drums on the first floor of his apartment, and then in the basement. So he had like this whole like.
Oh, it's just
interesting
like
setup.
the drums were in the basement and mic'd up, but then the sound booth was upstairs.
So it was the same thing where we got the drums done all at once, right, with a scratch track, and then all the instruments live on top of the drums.
Okay.
So so that was the EP, was with Tommy, and then Nature was at Radon Studios.
Okay.
Which is,
Nice.
Was at Kego Harbor.
Kego Harbor. Yep.
And so is the album too. So,
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
So is like Nature's a single on its own, and then you guys have another single, which we'll hear in a couple minutes here. Are those going to be on the new album? Or are those going to just be their own thing?
Nature is its own thing, and that's kind of how we wanted it to be. It's its own entity, and then the new single will be on the upcoming album.
Excellent.
And there's also going to be 2 more singles that I'll be releasing before the upcoming album that will also be on the album as well.
Nice. So what do you, I'll ask both of you guys, like, what do you like more, playing live or recording music?
Live.
You like playing live?
Absolutely.
What about you, Tristan?
Yeah, live's way better.
Yeah.
Live's more fun. Like, just I don't know. It's just the audience interaction. I get to improvise. I don't have to play the same thing perfectly 20
Sure.
times. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Kill me. Like, yeah, it's the freedom, the looseness. The little things, like the little expressive things, the little scratches on your guitar. If you're supposed to get the same recording, right? Maybe the first time I like that little scratch, but it's hard to replicate that, and then the second time there's a little squeak. I like all the extra little sounds. I like all that stuff. And it's just, again, you finish the tune, and then there's that the energy exchange between you and the audience.
Yeah.
The improvising, the audience, and just the feel of everything. Yeah.
So we mentioned the new song, which we're going to play here in a couple of minutes here. It's an acronym. It's WIGFE. I've just been calling the song Wigfy.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
What is it supposed to be?
Well, we just call it Wigfy in general, so I would
Oh,
say
all right
that
then.
in reality, that's just the song.
That is much better than the last podcast we did with the guys from Cyodyne. And I've been calling him Cyadine
Oh, that's
for like
yeah.
the whole 2 years of Motor City Riffs. So when they corrected me, I was like, wow, I'm the jerk.
Cypress was like that. I was like, and everybody.
Everyone goes, oh, circus. They're like, no, the R is over here.
Yeah.
It's Cypress.
Oh, it's Cypress, I guess. So
Oh,
they were
well.
like, I
Cypress,
booked a
yes.
show, and I was like, all right, everybody. It was a DIY show.
Yeah.
And that same thing happened to me. That happened with it. They were like, it's actually Cypress. I was like, dude, could have told me that after your set. Like, it was funny.
So is it a secret what it's an acronym for?
No, it's Ally, do you want to?
Yeah, so the acronym is What in God's Flat Earth?
All right. I would ask you if you had anything to tell the listener about the song before we play it, but you can't beat that.
It's pretty literal. Yeah. If you read the lyrics, at least with nature, there's a little bit, there's allegory, right? There's, that's kind of, I like hearing people's, their experience before necessarily telling them what it's about. But,
Sure.
With Wigfee, it's there. Like, you know what I mean? If you read just like the verse, it's like, okay.
It's pretty
I
on
get
the
what's
dot.
happening.
Yeah.
It's our land of confusion in a lot of ways. So,
Well, without further ado, here is Wigfee, What in God's Flat Earth from Forge the Sun. We'll be back with more of the Motor City Riffs podcast right after this. All right, you just heard WIGFE or Wigfee. If you want to know what it's called, you're just going to have to rewind the podcast when we expose what the acronym for it is. That is Forge the Sun. You, of course, listening to the Motor City Riffs podcast. I'm your host, Chuck Bean. I'm sitting with essentially 2/3 of Forge the Sun at this point. We're talking to Ally and Tristan from the band. And I meant to get to this in the last segment, but like we kind of stopped halfway in your origin story to when the two of you got together and became like, once the two of you knew you had something and you were playing together, what was the impetus to like, all right, we need a band?
I don't know if it was necessarily need. I think it was more like, because I love arranging stuff. Like at Wayne State, they'd be like, yeah, arrange this for a 2-piece, arrange this for an octet, arrange this for a quintet.
Okay.
And I was like, this would be really, like, Witchcraft would be awesome for a full band ensemble, like the Led Zeppelin ensemble, right? Like, just, So, and that was the first time we performed as a rock band, like, publicly, was at my senior recital at Wayne State. So you had like all these jazz arrangements. You had these like, I mean, sometimes the avant-garde stuff can feel kind of like pretentious. Like, it's really far out. It's not really in a key. So you had all this stuff, the stuff from the real book. You had, I had a piece that I arranged for a big band, and then we had the rock band segment. And it was just, it was really fun. So and Matt played on that. Ally sang, I played guitar, and then we had Ian on bass, and we played Witchcraft and Burn the Witch. And I was just like, oh, wow, that went really well. Okay, cool. Let's try to find a permanent bass player, because Matt was already in. He was down.
And Matt was playing drums at the time.
Matt was playing drums at the time. So we needed a bass player, and let's see. We tried out a couple different bass players. The enthusiasm was pretty low. It'd be like, well, you'd be like, all right, this guy doesn't really seem into it. And then they'd be like, well, what's the pay like? You'd be like, oh, man, well, it's kind of a passion project. Like, if you want to make money, grab a real book and find a corporate gig. That stuff pays really well. And it's cool. But, so we were like, fishing around for a bass player. Barrett, I've known him since he was like 3, right? We're actually family friends. And so Barrett's 19 or 20. I'm 27. So
I think he just turned 20.
Yeah, so like,
is he the baby?
He is. Oh yeah, he's totally the baby.
Oh, yeah.
I remember we'd have a rehearsal, and he'd be like, I can't make it tonight. I'm gonna be at CJ Barrymore's for my birthday. I'd be like, all right, dude.
I got homework.
Yeah, exactly. Nerd. Yeah, totally. So I just remember he's always been like super musically inclined. And I teach too, so I see like when a kid's got it or not. And I was just like, dude, like this guy, like, and he played cello as well. I'm leaving that out. He's an all-state cellist. So I gave him a guitar lesson once, and he got it really fast. Yeah. And so I was just like, I'm kind of at a wall here. Like, let's give Barrett a call. And I called him up, and I was just like, dude, do you want to, like, I'm putting together a rock band. We just need a bass player. I've seen you play guitar. I know you're a great cello player. This instrument's fretted too. You don't even have to memorize it. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if it's weird you out, you can get fretless basses.
Yeah,
but,
exactly, totally. And he was just, I was like, do you want to be in the band? And he was like, yeah, sure, that sounds awesome.
Nice.
And then he just showed up. I remember there was one gig I got him like shortly after he had been playing bass for a couple months. He had this one cover band gig and he learned like 50 songs in like 3 weeks. Or
Dang.
something. Yeah, dude, when he applies himself, man, he just just a sponge for information. He can pick that stuff up really fast.
Before we get too deep, I did have a question about how WIGFI is arranged, especially at the end. You've got that kind of like that vocal part, and it happens. There's a guitar solo, and then there's that vocal part, and then there's another guitar solo, and then the vocal part ends the song. What was the thinking when you guys were putting the song together to having like the guitar solo separated by that part?
So if you, in terms of the form, I didn't write the so I'll let you comment on that, Ally. But for the form, if you ever listen to like a jazz band on 90.9 Jazzy Nights, classical days, when you trade fours, that's what that is. Like you're trading 4 measures. You're like, okay, cool. Drum solo for 4 bars, guitar solo, drum solo. It's a conversation.
And like the first time I listened to it, I thought, oh, they have 2 guitarists, so one got one part, one got the other. And then I, did a little research. I was like, no, there's just one guy.
Yeah.
So I was really curious, like what was you just wanted to put that in the song? Just
I love that element.
One solo here and then one solo here, kind of thing.
Trades, trading fours. I love that. I also think that's stuff like that, or this is unrelated, but another thing that like jazz music does that we've incorporated into one of our other songs that we Fight or Flight, which we have the EP version released.
Right.
Having a drum solo that's not a stadium drum solo where it's just the drums. Like you can have backgrounds. That's what jazz bands do. You can have comping underneath while the drummer takes a solo, or you could trade fours like we do on WIGFI.
Right.
So I love elements like that in jazz and blues. So that's kind of how I came about the form. Ally, where did the cheering come along from?
I think it actually didn't initiate as like a cheer type thing, but I kind of like had it in the head of wanting to have like this kind of protesty element in the song, because when he gave me the music and to start writing lyrics on it, like it instantly reminded me of protest rock, like very CCR, Fortunate Son type vibes. So I was like, okay, like this is my theme, like this is what I'm gonna go with. And I think at the end of it, like when I heard like the 2 like solos or the ideas of the 2 solos, I thought, okay, these open parts might be a good part to maybe potentially either trade fours between guitar and vocals, and then eventually it evolved into a way to kind of engage the crowd at the live shows.
Right, because they don't have to memorize any words. They just have to like match your vocal harmony.
Mm-hmm. Right, because at the time, like we had a lot of these like intricate songs where it was just kind of like in your face rock and roll like the whole time, and it was like, where can I kind of fit in like some type of crowd engagement into this to kind of get them with us like on our side, because a lot of the times when we play shows, it's these people are seeing us for the first time,
right? And
we want to try and get them in so that they're actually like engaged with everything that we're doing.
Right.
So I was like, oh well, maybe I could try this out one day and see how it works. And I tried it out once and people did it. I was just like, okay.
Yeah, I'm on to something here. Right.
Yeah.
Now, do you do all the like your background vocals when you guys record?
So I will do most of them, but for specifically this album, we wanted to bring in more voices just to kind of deplete the, I guess when you put like one voice and you stack that like 8 times,
sure,
it can sound really auto-tuned. It can sound artificial to a sense. So
sure.
We actually had Barrett, the bassist, for the most part, and Tristan on some of the songs doing some of the backing vocals to kind of help break that up a little bit.
And that was my next question, is when you guys play live, does anybody else like pull down like backing vocals duties?
No, it's just like the Led Zeppelin setup. It's really just, you know what I mean? I guess sometimes they might have,
because that leads into my next question, which is like you're a guitarist, so like you're layering a rhythm guitar underneath your solos.
Yep.
When you play live, that rhythm guitar isn't there.
No, and that's what makes arranging really fun live, right? Yeah. But a lot of the stuff was already, it's the reversed like it was going into the studio and going like, okay, like is this pulled off in the studio the same way it is live, right? Because like we'd been performing these tunes for a while,
Right.
so that part was like we knew how we performed it. It was just going, okay, well, does it translate? And sometimes things don't, and sometimes things do. It depends on your recording method too, your recording technique. So, I mean, I love ZZ Top, man. I'm down with just the bass accompanying, and just the drums. But sometimes, there might be a song where it's like, just maybe a low mixed rhythm guitar here. Pantera used to do stuff like that too.
Oh, sure. Sure. Well, like you said, it's kind of like the Led Zeppelin the setup where like I'll listen to Led Zeppelin and I know there's more than one guitar going on.
Yep.
And then I'll listen to live Led Zeppelin and be like, the rhythm guitar's not there.
Yeah, but
I don't like that.
And that could be it. Sometimes it could be different. Sometimes it could be worse, better, or just different.
Right. And it's it's personal preference too.
Oh,
like
yeah,
there's
it's very
absolutely people
arbitrary.
that are
It's
like,
just
no, this is great. It's different. It's arranged different stuff. But then there's also people like me that's like, why doesn't it sound like my record?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Totally. So
So what is the future? Or before we get there, you guys said that you are between drummers right now.
Oh yeah, drummer limbo.
You guys are in drummer limbo. Is it just a matter of like you're still much like the bassist? You're still looking for that perfect piece.
So yeah, I guess that's one way of putting it. We got to find someone who's capable of playing the music.
Capable and
Great.
available, because
Capable,
everybody
available.
who's capable
Isn't
is
available.
in like 5 projects.
And everyone who's
Drummers,
available, just uncut it.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of awesome people in terms of them being awesome human beings, right? And
Sure.
They happen to be great musicians that we have filling in on drums.
Yeah, so you've got kind of like as it stands right now. While you don't have a permanent Forge the Sun drummer, you do have like a roster of 3 or 4 people that you're like,
Oh,
hey,
totally. It's
hey,
a
we
total
got a
roster.
gig. We got a gig like 3 weeks from Thursday. Can you do it? No. Okay. Well, how about you?
That's literally how it goes. Dude.
And that's how it goes.
100%. And we're only asking because we know they could play the music.
Yeah.
Great. They're awesome drummers. We have Dan Yule from Blood Rune Sigil.
Okay.
Awesome jam doom metal band. We're actually doing some crossover stuff with them, and they're awesome dudes. So
When you guys do
that,
that, is there ever a kind of like, hey, do you want to come and play drums for us? And then you guys can have a spot on the set.
Sometimes we've planned it out where it's like we happen to be on the same bill, and we're like, instead of just asking for a separate
Instead of
drummer to
asking
come to that
somebody
one,
else,
could
you're
you
gonna
just do
be
double
there.
Yeah, exactly, double duty, right?
Right.
But no, it's so sometimes it's worked out that way. But no, we always make it around to be. We always end up on each other's bills anyways. The
Sure.
community feels really big, but it's also kind of small too. It's a small world, and we end up playing. We've played with those guys a lot.
It is fascinating just in the couple of years that I've been doing Motor City Riffs and watching, the local, the live shows that happen every weekend kind of thing, and watching that, like, there are, I don't want to say cliques, because I don't think. I'm sure there are cliques, but that's not the way like I see it. But there are definitely groups of bands that you see play together very often. And then like you'll see, another band like play with them, and then like a couple of months will go by, and then now they're part of this group that kind of all tends to play together very often.
Yeah. No.
And that's fun to see.
Well, yeah, and it's nothing like some member, in a band quitting and then it torpedoes any kind of gigging, any kind of potential. So then you're like, hey, man, I filled in for your band. Would you possibly, and it's like, of course I'll fill in, dude.
Yeah.
I love hanging out with you guys. You guys are great players, and this is fun because this band is nothing like Forge the Sun, and I get to challenge myself and go outside my comfort zone. They're
Right.
So yeah, Blood Rune Sigil, and then we've got so Dan Yule from Blood Rune Sigil fills in on drums, and then we've got Isaac, who he's the ex drummer of the band A Chronicle.
Okay.
They're like metalcore.
Yeah.
Awesome drummer. We just played a show with him at the Diesel like a week ago, and he's excellent too. So yeah, those are our 2 dudes right now. But
Nice.
we put up a post. I don't know, was it like a month ago?
Yeah, about a month ago.
A lot of people were like, oh yeah, they liked it up. It got a lot of attention, but then
No bites.
Oh yeah, and then the bites are like.
I think I even played you guys and mentioned it on Motor City Riffs that
Oh,
you
think
were
you
that you were
did.
between drummers
yeah.
and looking for one and to hit you up
Thank
on
you.
Facebook. So it sucks that like nobody was like, hey, I think I could do it. Maybe they're intimidated, honestly.
Maybe.
Maybe they listen to the stuff and they're like, I don't know if I'm that good. I mean,
They don't always play nature. Yeah, I mean,
I can 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, but I don't know if I can pull that off.
yeah, maybe.
So you mentioned the Diesel. Do you guys have any concert venues that like are your favorite to play?
What are your favorites, Ally?
Well, I in particular really love playing infused production shows wherever they are. They're usually at the Diesel, but
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Mike of
rocks.
Infused Productions is like one of the best bookers. Like
He is the best.
literally saying this to like all the local bands, book with Mike because
Nice.
he takes care of the bands. Like he genuinely loves what he does, and he always makes sure that the show is good. So every
That's cool.
Infused show that we played has always been a blast. So those are my favorite types of shows to play. In terms of venue, I really like Smalls in Hamtramck.
Yeah,
It's
Smalls
just-
is cool.
It's just a tight place with
Yep.
a really good sound system and a sound engineer who knows what he's doing.
That makes all the difference.
So I've always liked playing at Smalls.
Like there's been I've been on some stages where I'm like, this is great. This looks like the Pearl Jam Even Flow video. This room is
yeah.
awesome.
There's
And then
not
the
a
sound engineer has no idea what they're doing with that board. And you're
Yep.
like, oh, he sucked tonight.
Yep.
Well, what does the future look like for Forge the Sun? What do the fans have to look forward to in 2023?
Got a single dropping next month.
Yep.
Excellent.
So we did talk a little bit about Burn the Witch, and Burn the Witch made an appearance on our EP, and it was one of the very first songs that we wrote together as a band. We actually did not a remake, but a re-recording of that
Oh,
song.
interesting.
So that will be releasing February 3rd, and we'll also be making an appearance on the album, which should be dropping in either really late March or early April. So that's like the biggest thing we have going on is brand new album. We
Very
were in the
cool.
studio for like almost 2 years, perfecting everything.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so it was quite a process.
You
And
have a
then
lot more patience than I do. Like I
Oh,
I
yeah.
asked you guys before if you like playing live or you like being in the studio. I love being in the studio.
Oh, really?
When I was a musician, that is what I live for.
You know, that's awesome.
Right.
But I also understand why people do drugs in the studio, dude. It's like
Yeah.
the most stress.
No, I
like
get
the
it.
gray hairs I'm getting from being in here.
Yeah, I get it. You've got
Ah.
the song cranked. You've heard it for the 500th time, and all you're doing is going
Oh, dude,
on
you're-
this one fader just to try and get the perfect mix.
it's also
Yep.
really hard to pull that energy too, because
Yep.
like especially like for me as a vocalist and just for them as well. Like
Oh, yeah.
a lot of the times, like we all work day jobs, so we can like integrate every single session
Yep.
together. So you have to kind of pull that energy that you get regularly from the audience and from your band itself when you're
Yeah.
playing live and try to replicate that energy into the music. It's a task. It's not easy.
So you've got a new album coming out. You said in what, like late March,
Late March, early April.
and then I think before we set up to record, you mentioned something about a video.
Yes. So we actually did a music video for Wigfee, and we are projecting that to release Friday, January 27th.
Excellent.
So we're
So-
pretty excited about that.
By the time you're hearing this, as long as I have done my due diligence, you've only got a couple days to wait to see the video for it. That's a great song for a video too. Like,
Thank you.
okay, so when you pull that song up on Spotify, there's like a little cycling graphic. Is that
Yeah.
from the video?
Yes.
Oh,
That is
it's
from
you
the
can get a
video.
little preview if you
Yeah.
do that on the Spotify or your streaming app. That's fun. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see that video because that cycling thing. Like I was listening to it this afternoon and I noticed that it was there, and I always think those are cool when they're there. And I'm watching it, I'm like, I wonder if there's a video for this.
Yep, there's
There
definitely
will
gonna be
be.
a video. We've been trying to pull out all the stops with figuring out like how to promote like these new songs because we spent so much time on them. Like
Right.
we want to do everything and anything. So we did like Wigfee merch, Wigfee music video,
Right.
all these different types of promotions.
You entertained coming here tonight and doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And for that, I appreciate and thank
Thanks
you.
for having us. This is
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome studio.
And
All right.
then if you guys want to see us next live, we're making our debut at Winter Blast in Royal Oak, February 4th.
Hey, all right, excellent. So yeah, we'll look forward to that. I'm sure I'll put you guys on the show the week before so I can promote it.
Sweet.
And
Awesome. Thank you.
and I promise I won't just play Witchcraft. I'll play them the same. I do
I
like
that one
Witchcraft a
too.
lot, but
Witchcraft's
Wigfy
a
is
good
really
To
good.
play that one. The last show. That's a good one.
Thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you for having
I
us.
Thank you for
appreciate it very
having
much.
us.